And we are live. Welcome to the last Tuesday in June. Thank you, Colorado, for whatever reason deciding on the week of the 4th of July to have a primary.
On the week of the 4th.
No ordinary primary. This might be the most exciting and intriguing and unknown result.
Clearly patriotic because it's the week of the 4th. So
that's right. Yeah. Colorado primary in at least a couple of decades. We've got a very competitive governor's race, a primary between a sitting senator and the sitting attorney general. We've got the Democratic Socialists of America candidate challenging a sitting member of Congress with Diana DeGette. We've got that storyline going. And oh, by the way, there's been a both generational and progressive challenge to John Hickenlooper, the sitting senior senator, if you will. Actually, he's the junior senator, even though he actually got Michael Bennet appointed there. So it's a fast, and I didn't even bring up Colorado 8. We do have a few Republican primaries we're keeping an eye on, but all the action tonight, Chris Liz and Jeffrey Skelly, really on the Democratic side of the aisle.
I will go quick because I know we got Abby Turner waiting. All I'll say is I do think I missed New York last week. I was on vacation, but I do think coming the week after New York and what we saw there, I know we're going to focus on the Democratic Socialist thing, but I will say I do think the governor's race is a great example. Bill Weiser is the attorney general of the state. It's not like he's like some insurgent out of nowhere, but Chuck has made this point a number of times. We've been doing these a lot. Chuck's made this point a lot, and he's exactly right. You know what Bill Weiser doesn't have? Sen or Gov or Rep before his name. And so he has run this kind of insurgent, I'm the guy who's going to stand up to Donald Trump candidacy. So I'm fascinated by that because when I saw Michael Bennet announced for governor, I thought, wow, he's just going to walk to it. Yeah. And he's clearly, he might win, but he's not going to walk to it. Skelly, over to you.
No, I agree that the Colorado governor's race is very interesting. I think it is a little telling that, so we're focusing on this is to get really nerdy. Colorado is one of the states that has a pre-primary convention process. They call it an assembly. So they have these party assemblies. Mm-hmm. And so you can qualify. It used to be actually the only way you could qualify for the primary, but now you can gather signatures and go around it. Well, in the governor's race, Michael Bennet decided not to gather signatures. He gathered signatures to qualify, did not go before the state assembly to qualify for the ballot. Phil Weiser won like 90% of the delegates at the state assembly to make the ballot. And in the Senate race, John Hickenlooper also didn't do that. He didn't do it in 2020 either, but that was also during COVID. So I'm not sure if it was, there could be a lot of things going on there, but he didn't do it this time either. And Julie Gonzalez, his opponent, won like 75% of the assembly vote. Now, the assembly is like any convention, small gathering, much more intense, very partisan, much more liberal or progressive. But I do think it's telling that these, DC figures, establishment figures who have some opposition from sort of more insurgent parts of the party didn't do that. So,
well, look, let's bring in Abby Turner, who covers.
We have some votes
for National Journal, and we've got some votes. And Abby, you're here for votes, and I'm going to make Skelly answer this following question: Give us the order of what's being dropped first. Colorado's basically all mail balloting. I know that. What are we seeing first? Is there any sort of order with they count their ballots?
Yes. So they're going to be basically like multiple sets of large tranches of mail votes being counted. Now, the initial batch here that we just got, and we got a lot of Denver. So I know, Abby, we're going to talk to you about the governor's race a little bit, but I just want to note that.
Golly, that was fast. 70%.
Yeah. Now it might be another couple hours before we get more votes here.
Good job, Colorado.
But we got a ton of votes of the estimated vote reporting. Now we might adjust those figures based on what they're reporting, but we actually have the Secretary of State does a good job reporting stuff in Colorado. So I think we probably feel pretty good about our estimates about what's outstanding. But I just note that Quiros is slightly ahead over Diana DeGette. Mail-out Quiros, the kind of the story of the night. Democratic Socialist primary challenger to longtime Representative Diana DeGette. The thought is that the votes, the later they come in, are probably better for Quiros. And if that is true, DeGette in a ton
of a really rough first round.
And Skelly, pull up the governor's race because
so let's get the governors going here.
I
so
want to read
Weiser
the
off to a
guidance.
great start here, about 2-1. Now it's all Denver.
Abby Turner.
and-
The first drops look terrible for Bennett.
They do.
This looks like a
Denver.
really, really bad night. We're not going to be projecting anything this quickly, but wow.
Yeah. I think in the last 2 weeks, this race has heated up, but, covering this race, I think it's been a story of the last few months of this primary. I mean, on paper, policy-wise, these two men are very similar, but this is really a fight of, who's going to stand up to Trump the most, and, does Michael Bennett carry baggage from being in Washington? So I think they've sparred back and forth on different things. Weiser's attacked Bennett for voting to confirm Trump nominees. Bennett has snapped back and kind of attacked Weiser for not, being more proactive in suing Trump in the first administration. So it'll be an interesting one to watch, I think.
Go ahead, Abby. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I think it'll be interesting. I know we've seen a lot of Republicans trying to make the jump to the governor's mansion, in falling short. Randy Feenstra, Nancy Mace, Ralph Norman. So I think tonight will really be, does that curse extend to Democrats here?
Hey, Chris, and I don't want to cut you off, but let's play the, a couple of the back and forths on Bennett and Weiser, give people a taste of this race, and put some visuals to what Abby was just talking about.
Just as our parents taught us, Susan and I have taught our girls, leave things better than you found them. But common sense like that has been lost in Washington. It's why I'm fighting to ban members of Congress from ever becoming lobbyists, why I'm not taking a dime in corporate PAC money, and why I'm working to stop senators and congressmen from making personal stock trades. I'm Michael Bennett, and Washington could learn a lot from Colorado. That's why I approve this message.
Michael Bennett voted for more of Trump's cabinet than almost any Democratic senator, including Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins.
Secretary Rollins is the secretary who tried to pull SNAP benefits out of Colorado.
That's true. Attorney General Phil Weiser stopped her cuts to food assistance for 600,000 Coloradans. But Michael Bennett?
I voted for the Secretary of Agriculture. I stand by that vote.
Colorado's next governor needs to stand up and fight Trump, not support his dangerous cabinet picks.
It's so interesting because the Bennett ad feels like a general election ad. Do you know what I mean? There's like no Trump is bad kind of stuff. It's I'm going to run against Washington, and the Weiser ad is clearly like a primary ad. It's Abby. I will admit I was surprised that this. When I said this before he came on, when Michael Bennett announced that he was going to run for governor, I was like, I'd probably win, right? Like he's a sitting senator, right? And yet. Well, like Chuck said, we're not going to call it, but man, I would much rather be Phil Weiser right now. Like, what the hell happened?
Well, Michael Bennett stays a United States senator.
That's right. He'll still be a senator.
Yeah.
He's still a senator.
He's not up again until 28. Yeah.
I mean, I think, he entered this race and everyone kind of was just like, look, he's a senator. This is kind of what happens. Let's write this off. But I think Weiser has really put up a fight here. He has really benefited from more of the grassroots. I know you all talked about before. He went the, state assembly route to get on the ballot, and Bennett did the petition signatures. So that's something that the campaign has really touted to say, we have grassroots support here. And I think I've seen bumper stickers and kind of memes online of like, Weiser for governor and Bennett for senator, like in the argument. Should put Weiser in the governor's mansion, and Michael Bennett can stay in the Senate. I mean, Weiser, he's even said, Bennett has been a good senator. He just doesn't want to see him as governor.
This happened. Look, I'm going to go my way back machine. 1996 Massachusetts Senate race, one of these all-time great races, featured the sitting governor Bill Weld, sitting Senator John Kerry. Believe it or not, they both had favorable ratings in the 50s and 60s, had job approval ratings, and basically. The same people who gave a 60% job rating to Bill Weld voted for John Kerry over Weld.
That was one where Bill Weld dove into the river, right? Into the Charles.
He might have done that the first time he ran for governor.
Yeah.
That was a very Weldian thing to do. But you can picture, Abby, voters. We've seen this before. Voters are like, hey, he's a good senator. The other guy, why do we want to take him away from the Senate?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think another thing too with Weiser is, he's in a statewide office as the AG. It's something that he's talked a lot about too. And so the argument here isn't electability. I mean, whoever comes out of this primary is the presumptive governor here. And I think it's giving voters a little bit more wiggle room to really kind of look at the candidates that they have and say, who is going to be the best out of here, and not really worry about like, oh, who's going to be good to go up against this Republican.
Hey, look, it's one of the newest counties in America, Broomfield, which was only created around 2000. Anyway, sorry.
Fully a data. This is why you're watching us.
Exactly.
This live stream.
You don't get that everywhere.
No other election night live stream is telling you that kind of information.
That's why it's funky. It's a bunch of towns and stuff, 3 or 4 counties, and
You're right. It's a weird looking county.
Anyway, it's very weird.
Abby, what happened to the Republican Party of Colorado? I mean, I'll just say I 100% agree with you. I mean, this is basically the primary to be the governor, but Colorado was a real. I mean, Ben Nighthorse Campbell, Wayne Allard, Scott McInnes when he had Western Slope, like
Corey Gardner.
There were like real serious
Bill
Republicans.
Owen.
I mean, Dick Wadhams is somewhere just this was a real state with real Republican roots in it, right? I mean, Colorado Springs is in the state, et cetera, et cetera. What the hell happened?
I mean, I think I would compare Colorado like a New Mexico, like maybe a purplish, in distant but kind of recent memory. I just think the organization is not there. I mean, you look at this GOP primary, there's 3 candidates. One has this like weird viral moment about like killing someone. I don't know.
Yes, he was forced to kill someone at age 7.
Yeah, I was like, this is so odd. So, I mean, I don't know. I think
to kill someone at age 7. What a story.
That is the probably most surprising thing to come out of a GOP primary. But I think all in all, it's just they don't have the grassroots support that they have on the state level. I mean, you have GOP districts at the congressional level here, but I think statewide that they've just struggled cycle after cycle.
But this seems, Abby, it feels like, it's funny. It reminds me of the Virginia Republican Party, and Virginia and Colorado to me are almost like sister states, right? You're these states that in 2004 were red states. By 2008, they were purple states. By 2012, they were blue states, right? It made this super move.
And Colorado's bluer.
Yeah, is probably bluer than Virginia.
Notably bluer than
But
Virginia.
both states are super allergic to Trumpism and Trump Republican. And it does, I wonder if Colorado, I don't think becomes a purple state again, but does Colorado become more competitive when there's no longer the Trump, if the Republican Party can go back being a more center right party rather than today?
Yeah, because all 3 candidates in this GOP field have very much aligned themselves with Trump. There is no like, I'm running in Colorado. So
that's a loser in this
lane. Yeah.
Yeah, for what it's worth, sort of thinking about the Colorado-Virginia comparison, they are 2 of the most highly educated states in terms of population. And so I think, that suburban Denver, suburban
I was going to say
DC,
giant suburban populations too.
A suburban blob.
A fair bit of affluence, but also a fair bit of racial and ethnic diversity. That's how I think Colorado and Virginia really do compare.
And by the way, Jeffrey, we could do it even more. They both had an evangelical base to them, right? Colorado Springs, Lynchburg, Virginia. What is interesting is Colorado Springs, it's not a blue city. I'm not going to go that far, but they have an independent mayor now. This is a very purple area now.
And it's the heart of the conservative movement. I mean,
Air Force Academy has brought
this is focused on the family's home, right?
It's
really
focused on family.
Really smart MIT guys and Caltech guys too.
It's just fascinating. Hey, Abby, I have one. I just want to go back quickly, and we'll let you go. How much or how little did Phil Weiser run a campaign on the hey, you can get both of us for the price of one? Because I always do voters know that if they, Bennett is still going to be in this? We do. Bennett is still going to be in the Senate, but was that part of the pitch, or was it literally the only thing I saw over and over again was I sued Donald Trump 66 times. I sued Donald Trump 66 times.
Yeah, I think in the last few weeks, it's something that has come up a little bit more. I mean, I don't know how much he's leaned into it, but I think people have come to realize Michael Bennett will be here until 2028. Maybe we just kind of leave him in the Senate. As I mentioned, I've seen these bumper stickers. It's, I think, something that people in the Weiser orbit have joked about. But I think a lot of the argument from Weiser has been, I will sue Donald Trump. I've sued Donald Trump. Very much the kind of argument here because when you look at Jared Polis, I think he's someone that's been a complicated figure for Democrats when it comes to
That's such a good point.
I have heard a
Tina
theory
Peters.
Abby,
yeah. So
I've had a theory thrown at me this week that the Tina Peters pardon
yes
damaged Bennett more than Weiser. And yet, because the assumption is that somehow Polis is with Bennett.
Yeah, and I think too, like Weiser had like a direct hand in working on that case, so it's also something that he can talk about. So I think it'll be interesting. I do think that the Jared Polis of it all has been a little bit underplayed in this primary.
Totally, that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean he's been.
What do you mean by that? Just that decision alone, that it really sort of stirred the pot. That without it, Michael Bennett wins a quieter primary, and it just became less quiet.
I think even without it, Weiser could have squeaked by. I just think it kind of put into the forefront, like, what does it mean to be a governor who succeeds Jared Polis? I mean, both of them have outwardly criticized the move, so there wasn't any split between the two of them on that. It's just of who do we want to kind of pick up the pieces here from someone.
And the fighting thing, right? It's like, why are we capitulating to Trump? Like it emphasizes the fighting message. Yeah. Anyway, Abby, you're the best. Thank you.
Abby, you're a great fighter. Keep up the fight.
I don't like having Abby on because her glasses are cooler than mine, and I feel like I have to keep that corner. Do you know what I mean? Like it's all.
It's a good time. We're trying to get Warby Parker on as a sponsor. That's a great segue there. Well done.
I mean, I do what I can. I didn't even know that, Chuck. You want to bring in Seth? Seth is here. Let's bring Seth in. Seth Maskett, professor of political science at the University of Denver, and this is the most important thing, and you can see it in the background there. A new book called "The Elephants in the Room: How Trump Voters Seized the Party from Republican Leaders." I know him as SMOTUS mostly, but Seth Maskett. Seth, thank you for joining us. Congrats.
Hey, Chris, I think we're set up here. You just asked Abby about this, and I think Seth would be the perfect person to ask, what happened to the Colorado Republican Party?
Yes.
Why are we talking about the Democratic primary as the decisive moment in the gubernatorial race and obviously the other statewide too?
So, great question. Thanks for having me on. My impression, Colorado Republican Party over the last 10 years, like in the Trump era, the party itself has moved hard into the Trump zone while the voters really didn't. They leaned very hard into, kind of mimicking every kind of bombastic statement that Trump made, sometimes going even further. They've talked about sort of, going against the state's whole primary system and just limiting it to registered Republicans, and in some ways trying to make the party smaller. And very ideologically pure, just very Trump pure. And there's a lot of voters just responded by kind of moving away from that party as a result. So it's really remarkable. I mean, I think some of it is demographics. Over the last 10, 20 years, there's just been more Democrats moving into the state from the West Coast, from other parts of the country. So, it was going to be harder for Republicans as time went on. But it's been pretty rough. It's also, I think you see in Colorado, it's one of those relatively where sort of a pattern we've seen in a number of other states where you have a highly educated white population. Right. Those have not gone strongly for Trump. Right. And so it's not been an ideal ground for Republicans today.
You probably heard us talking about the Virginia, Colorado, that sort of how they frankly, those states move together, but they've really been allergic to Trump. And I don't know what happens when if the suburbs become purpler again and things like that. But let me ask this other question about the Colorado Republican Party, because I don't think Bill Owens is like fully on Medicare yet. Cory Gardner. Like there was this sort of group of what I would call very sort of mainstream conservative Republicans, right? Who weren't very Trumpy. I mean, Gardner's been walking this line for a while, and I think has gotten, at least does business, it looks like, with the Trump political system these days. But have those guys just disappeared? Like Bill Frist left politics, and Bob Corker, they were like, I'm out, right?
Yep.
Is that what happened in Colorado? Did the rational Republicans just walk from this party?
I mean, some of them kind of got pushed out. Some of them who wanted things like some sort of modest handgun reform, they were just challenged immediately in their primaries. There were just lots of conservative groups that massively funded primary opponents to them. And so there just really hasn't been as much of a place for them in this Republican Party. And also, but you're right. At some point, they kind of stopped nominating the more electable candidates. Cory Gardner in 2014 was the last time Republicans won a statewide contest. It's been really some time.
It just makes me feel old, Seth. It's amazing. I mean, that's
Chris. I think Cory Gardner's our age. Like, this isn't a guy who's like in his 70s.
I just can't believe it's
going,
12 years ago.
Stories,
right. Golly.
Well, hey, I guess
and
the
we're
counterpoint
seeing
to this is, Seth, because you obviously are a close observer of things. The flip side here is, what might you make of? Obviously, Denver is not the whole state, but we're going to probably spend a lot of time talking about this race tonight with Malek Quiros and Diana DeGette. And I guess I'm curious if you think about political parties and obviously the sort of Democratic socialists and left making moves in places like New York City, but then trying to do that in a place like Denver. Quiros is off to a good start. I guess I was curious for your thoughts on a place like Colorado and its receptiveness to that.
I mean, this has really been, I've been focusing a lot on this race. I think it's pretty fascinating because DeGette she's been in the seat for 30 years. She's survived a number of primary challenges, ones that look initially threatening and, there's a lot of activist support comes out against her, but she ends up dispatching these folks usually 2-1. But this is a really interesting year where there's this, I don't know if I want to call it Tea Party of the left, but we're seeing, I think, a bigger surge than we saw in 2018. From the progressive side of the party. And they're taking out people like DeGette who haven't really done anything specifically wrong. Like, she's not involved in any scandals or anything like that. She's been a reliable Democratic vote.
But that's the issue.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, she hasn't done anything wrong, but it's also progressives say, well, she hasn't done anything right either, right? I mean, there's been...
right.
Yeah, she's been just a reliable Democratic vote, very much part of the party establishment. And that's usually a good thing in a primary, and it is not this year. And that has really fueled Quiros.
I was going to say, I think my favorite fact about this is Quiros was either not born or just born when Diana DeGette got sworn into Congress. Yep. I mean, it's a remark.
They're the same age. The same amount of years. Yeah.
Right. 29, 30, and 30 years. I mean, it's like, this just goes to Chuck. Chuck spotted this months and months ago about the kind of like congressman and senator that we always, that it used to be this thing where it was like, well, if you're an incumbent, you're always going to win. And now it's it is a negative.
Look, I don't want to exaggerate here, but I believe we've not had a Tuesday where a sitting member of Congress hasn't lost some primary, either a primary for a promotion or their own primary going.
The only one I can think of was Georgia and Alabama on the same day when Collins and Barrymore both won. Those runoffs.
But they also knocked off a sitting member.
That's
of
true.
Who was also in there. So I'm just saying, I don't think we've held a primary night where we haven't had a sitting member either lose a promotion primary or like we saw last week, 2 go down in this primary. We may see one go down tonight. Seth, I'm curious. Is there a functional head of the Colorado Democratic Party, or because you have a Hickenlooper and a Polis and a Bennett who sort of ignores the party apparatus aspect of things, the assembly, that sort of thing, that they've almost left the party to the base and the progressives and the DSAers, and all of a sudden they've lost control of their institution?
Yeah, it's pretty notable there that the party organization for the most part is populated. It's pretty left.
Right. It's always been Boulder Democrats, right? They used to be the code.
Right.
Boulder Democrats run the Democratic Party, right?
And yet they've tended to nominate in the past somewhat more moderate people statewide.
Hickenlooper and Bennett are not DSA type vibes-wise. I mean,
not by a long shot. I mean, prior to Hickenlooper, the Democratic governor was Bill Ritter, who was he was pro-life.
He was kind of kicked out of the party practically, or run out. Like, can't run
and then Hickenlooper, who's still quite moderate, and and then Polis, who skewed liberal on some things, but had this sort of more conservative tech side or libertarian tech side to him, and that's really come out a lot more in the last year. So they've definitely been, so that's been sort of this model for the Democratic Party that, you can have what you want in specific districts, but for the most part, people will tend to organize to support what they perceive as a more electable Democrat who can win, some counties in the Western Slope. But I think we may be seeing just the more progressive side of the party is just emerging a lot stronger this year.
Hey, Seth, I want to ask about Polis because I feel like, we always talk about this, how, if some of these governors were governors of either on the West or the East Coast, they'd be getting a hell of a lot more attention. And Polis got attention with Tina Smith. Maybe not the attention he wanted. What is Polis's, so he's term limited, what is his reputation in the state? And then we were talking to Abby Turner in National Journal before you came on, just about sort of the Tina Smith thing, how much attention it drew, how much negative attention it drew to Polis. Did that help Phil Weiser? So Polis is Polish generally, and then Polis's impact, if at all, on this race.
Oh, Chris, just to be clear, I think you meant Tina Peters.
Tina Peters. I said Tina Smith, who's a retiring senator from Minnesota. Sorry, Tina Peters.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
I was listening to your conversation about that. I think that's interesting. One of the things that's really been hurting Bennett this year is that he is perceived as more establishment than Phil Weiser. And it's really, and if you try and divine, like, what are the ideological or policy differences between Bennett and Weiser, you need an electron microscope for that. I mean, it's really hard.
So what you're telling me is a 2-term sitting attorney general is not part of the Democratic establishment?
Amazing.
Insurgent. Right. I'm an insurgent.
But Bennett, when he jumped in, he's obviously got a big chunk of the National Party behind him. He's got, he got Hickenlooper's endorsement and a bunch of members in Congress endorsement. So yeah, he's perceived as somewhat more establishment. And Polis himself did a good deal. I mean, the establishment was already in trouble this year. Polis did a good deal to tear it down further here. And I think it absolutely trashed Polis's legacy. I don't know what he thought, that Republicans were never going to take him seriously.
What was the, because I never understood, usually I can be like, oh, he did it for this reason. I never totally understood why he did it.
I mean, you could say, like, in his terms, he just felt it was a sincere thing. He just simply thought it was the right thing to do, that she was.
And he didn't pardon her. I mean, we need to be careful.
But he commuted her sentence, right? Yeah.
The sentence that he thought. Yeah.
Still,
and he may not be
such
wrong.
A political loser, Chuck. That's
it was a pretty harsh sentence. I don't mean to.
It was relatively harsh sentence.
It was a particularly harsh sentence.
Yeah, and he might have legitimately thought this was the right thing to do, that she was sentenced too harshly. There were at least some ideas that he was doing it to try and soften some of the Trump administration's anger at Colorado. I don't know how seriously to take that idea. But there's also been a number of areas where Polis has really swung a bit in the sort of right libertarian direction in the last year or two. Particularly when it comes to things like he's been very interested in the sort of Maha RFK type movement since 2025.
But he retracted that a little bit. Remember, he comes out, says some good things, gets just pummeled, and it was like, oh, if he had any thought about 2028, he better fix this. So he fixed it a little bit.
But he is super idiosyncratic. He's always been, I mean, even when he was running back, I mean, he is hard to sort of put in a box. I think he likes that, but that's hard.
He's a liberal libertarian. And I've always thought that they do exist, right? The libertarian, there's the liberal libertarian wing and I thought, that's why of every Democratic governor, correct me if I'm wrong, Seth, I think he probably got the best COVID marks overall of any sitting Democratic governor during COVID. He never had a mandate, never had a mask mandate.
I think he definitely gets some credit within the state, and I think somewhat across the country for his COVID response. One of his big initiatives going into his first term was universal pre-K, which he got through, and that is a pretty widely beloved accomplishment here in the state. Yeah. But he really tarnished his reputation. It's funny, just like in 2024, he was at least being talked about a little bit as a possible running mate for Kamala Harris. Yep. That is gone now. I don't think Bennett immediately distanced himself from him. I think
Peters thing.
I think recognizing this was a problem. But I don't think you're going to hear Polis's name in politics anymore after this year.
I mean, I guess
that's kind of over.
I mean,
what would a governor?
He's wealthy. He's wealthy, right? To Seth's point, if he does think it was the right thing to do, but it's just weird for someone who I heard occasionally, to your point, Seth, I heard mentioned as like, hey, keep an eye on this guy, Western governor, kind of an interesting record, interesting profile. Like you had to know that commuting the sentence, anything tied to Tina Peters was going to be really, really bad in the National Democratic base. Like it's just I don't know. It's one of those moves where I'm like, is there something I'm not seeing like that he's like doing, but maybe not.
I mean, I really wonder if he had considered a post-governor future for himself. He was actually thinking about running for president. And he thought maybe this endears him a little bit to some on the right. But man, he just
be the nominee first.
Seth, let's do this for us. What Governor Phil Weiser? What would be your expectation of what kind of governorship?
Yeah, what do we need to know about him?
Is it an unpredictable one, or do you think it would be probably more of a continuance?
I think it'd be a little more consistently Democratic than Polis has been. I think a little more consistent with where the state and the national party are. I think you're going to see more aggressiveness, at least symbolically, toward the Trump administration than Polis has shown. I think being encouraging more lawsuits, and he'll have, assuming he becomes the governor, he'll have, very strong Democratic numbers in the state house. So I don't think he'll have too much difficulty getting an agenda through. I think he'd be somewhat friendlier to labor within the state than Polis has been.
Interesting.
But again, but never had a particularly huge radical approach.
It's interesting you say that because Colorado, were they a right to work state for a while? And then have they repealed it, or are they still a right to work state?
Not a right to work. It's a challenging state to organize unions.
There's
one state that requires two separate organizing votes.
Right. And labor unions have not been hugely influential politically, correct?
In Democratic primaries, somewhat. But in terms of the overall
not like
system,
an Ohio and a Michigan and something like that. Yeah.
Right. Not like a Rust Belt state.
Hey, Seth, I have two questions. The second about the book, the first about Victor Marx, who, if people haven't followed him, speaking of the Republican Party of Colorado kind of drifting. I mean, this is a guy who I got flagged because someone flagged it to me because he said that he was forced to kill someone when he was 7 years old. And a local reporter followed up and said, have you killed anyone since then? And he said, not on purpose or something like, I mean, is this like, again, this is the party of like, to Chuck Wheeling, Bill Owens and Cory Gardner and Ben Nighthorse Campbell and Wayne Adler. I mean, this is not like there were real Republicans in the state.
And Seth Maskin of the University of Denver, we're not even talking about Scott Bottoms, who claimed that there was some secret pedophile ring running the state house.
Now, what the hell is going on with the Republican?
There's no state left. Who Chris just asked about was the more mainstream candidate.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know where to categorize Victor Marx, right? I mean, ideologically, who the heck knows? But like the way I'm seeing is like you go back 10 or 15 years, a race between Kirkmeyer and Bottoms would be much more typical Republican primary contest, right? They're both in the state legislature. Kirkmeyer's somewhat more toward the center of her party. Bottoms is more toward the extreme. They would sort of fight it out for the direction of the party. That's like a normal, like a Tea Party era, or even before that kind of contest. In the Trump era, someone like Victor Marx, just this very eccentric person who has no particular interest in governing or policy or anything like that, just sort of looks at the environment and says, this would be a fun time to be governor. That's a much more realistic model than it used to be. And he's obviously a very skilled fundraiser, has a weird sort of charisma to him, and
he's got 132,000 votes. He's not winning, but he's getting blown out, Chuck.
He's down about two percentage points. I mean, this
I mean, it's just fascinating to me that the decline and fall of the Colorado Republican Party, I find, and so I want to end on your book, which for people who this is out now, you can buy it. This is, I think, one of the things that people don't understand well enough. So I'm glad you wrote a book about it. The Elephants in the Room, How Trump Voters Seized the Party from Republican Leaders. I've always compared it to sort of a hostile takeover. It's like, the number of times that, and I know this is true of Chuck too, the Jeb Bush people would be like, don't need to worry about Trump. I mean, it's just going to go away. And then, then by the time I think Ted Cruz realized, oh, this is a real problem, it was too late, right? Give us the thesis of the book for people who are interested in sort of what did you find there? Because I think it's one of the most fascinating. The Republican Party of 2012 and the Republican Party of 2026 nationally have almost nothing in common.
Right. And thanks for asking about that. So what the book is mainly focused on is the decision by Republicans to nominate Trump a third time in 2024. Yeah. Which in many ways is it seemed pretty obvious to a lot of people at the time, but in many ways, historically, it's a wild thing to happen. It's very rare that you get someone who gets the nomination more than twice. It's very rare that someone loses the White House and then convinces his party to nominate him again. And you throw on that he left office amidst violence and scandal and criminal investigations. So one thing I really found in this, I spend part of the book describing basically how the party got to that point, since the 1990s. But then I dig in and I spent a lot of time talking with local Republican leaders, mostly county party chairs all across the country, and started surveying them in early 2023. And one of the really interesting things I found is that, at least early on, most of them were not that enthusiastic about Trump running again. They liked his first term, they liked what came of it, but they thought this guy has way too much baggage. And we have a lot of other competent people running.
This
like
was
Ron
the
DeSantis,
Ron
or Nikki
DeSantis
Haley, or
movement,
Chris
right?
Christie.
The spring of that year. Yeah.
And we have all these other candidates who could get us a lot of what Trump could already get us, plus could beat Joe Biden or whoever the Democrats put up much more handily. And there'd be much less to worry about there. And they were trying to steer their party in a different direction and did not know how to do it. They basically were leaders of a party they no longer knew how to lead. And they really couldn't disabuse Republican primary voters of their love for Trump. And I really tried to distinguish that from a Democratic Party where party insiders can still steer that party to some extent. And that's just gone on the Republican side.
This is something that I also think, and I'm really glad that you focus on voters in your book rather than the insiders, because one of the things that I feel like got overlooked in 2015 in the rise of Trump was his best asset turned out to be Ron and Rand Paul, because Ron and Rand Paul in 2012 and 2013, it was their supporters that were sort of the outsiders taking over the party. And they were just looking for any way to defeat the establishment. And when Trump showed up, they jumped aboard that. I mean, did you find that many of these folks were sort of, basically new to politics circa 2012, 2013, and they weren't really these were all sort of a new wave of activists that got involved in grassroots Republican Party politics?
Well, one thing I did find is that those who had been in the party the shortest time tended to be the most enthusiastic for Trump, right? There's people that he really brought into politics and they've taken over their local party organizations. Mm-hmm. Whereas I talked to some people who'd been in the party like 10 years. They'd been there from before Trump's first run. And a lot of them admitted they weren't particularly crazy about him his first time around. They have done, sort of demonstrated the bare minimum of respect to him and still try to work to steer him what they see as a proper direction and get some wins for their party. But those people are just largely being phased out. And Trump has just brought in a lot of people and functionally taken over the party in a lot of different ways.
I just want to show, this is my Kindle.
Yeah. Look at you.
Buy now. So, folks, follow my lead. The elephants in the room, how Trump voters see Republican leaders.
That is like QVC level.
Dude, that's how I roll, Chuck. I just had my Kindle on me, so I
may have sponsorship in my background, but that guy is going to
Kindle not sponsoring us yet.
Wow.
Seth, so you sold one.
I hope my parents are watching right now. Thank you.
Seth, it's great to talk
Thank you, Seth. You rock. Hey, Chuck,
let's get the music.
Yes.
Yeah, come on. Let's play the music.
Okay, here it is. Let me go to broadcast.
Colorado 8.
Colorado 8, State Rep Manny Rutnell. There it is. Over former state legislator Shannon Byrd. Now, here's what's interesting about this.
It's a big win. This was the expectation is that this was going to be a fairly close primary.
And Rutnell, we've talked about this a lot. We're going to talk about it a lot. Rutnell is to the left of Byrd. right? Into ideologically, right? And I think he had picked up a bunch of momentum. He had more money, but this race is Gabe Evans's seat. This is a very competitive district. I'm sure
this
I've looked today.
This district's not that old.
Back and forth. It's new,
right? It's old.
It's new.
This is sort of a growth, an outgrowth of the suburban growth of Colorado, and this is probably one of the swingiest seats in the nation.
Absolutely. And you know what, Chuck? Why Erin Covey is here. Let's bring her in because she's the house editor of the Cook Political Report. Let's talk. Erin, you got here a little early, so we're going to bring you in.
Now we're using you. Yeah.
We just called DDHQ just called this race for Manny Root. Now we were just explaining this is Gabe Evans's seat. I assume you guys have this in toss up, and we'll keep it there. Can you give us a little overview of this seat, and then talk a little bit about the primary?
We do. I mean, I think this is a seat that is your quintessential swing seat. Voted for Trump in 2016, voted for Biden in 2020, voted for Trump again by a couple of points in 2024. I actually think this is one of those districts that could move into the lean D column if the cycle was what it is. Because this is, if you're looking at the battleground of competitive races and the easiest pickup opportunities for Democrats, this is absolutely in the top 10 just by nature of the fact that the Trump margin was so close in 2024. And Evans only won his race by about a point. And so he's immediately going to be one of the most vulnerable Republicans in the country. But this is a district, it's mostly the northern suburbs of Denver, though it also stretches north into Weld County, very rural, dominated by oil and gas industry, also has a large meatpacking industry presence as well. But yeah, this primary, I mean, it's about what I expected going into this. I think, talking to all of Byrd's allies, they had kind of given up hope in the final month of the race. And it looked like Rittenell was going to win by a pretty healthy margin.
We did just the roughest outline, Erin, of this, but this was a left versus, I don't want to categorize, I feel like all Democrats don't want to be categorized as moderates anymore, which is interesting, but Rittenell is to the left of Byrd, correct?
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting. I actually think it's easier. I think Byrd would rather be categorized by a moderate than Rittenell would like to be categorized as a progressive, because Rittenell was not running this wasn't similar to the Villegas Baines race in the sense that Rittenell did not have Bernie's endorsement. He didn't have the Congressional Progressive Caucus's endorsement and was actively trying to run away from all his previous more lefty positions throughout the primary, with an eye towards the general. And, obviously the other thing he had going for him is this district is close to 40% Hispanic. Yeah. And Rittenell was backed by the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Yeah. And, represented part of this district, currently represents part of this district in the state legislature. So he kind of already had a base with one of the core constituencies of this seat.
And do we want to run, Chuck?
I want to run through some House races with Erin here. And I want to start with one that we've called, it's the only Republican primary of the congressional races, but it's the Jeff Hurd seat.
I'll grab it. Hold on. Keep talking. I'll grab it.
I've been sort of deep in this race for a brief period of time. Donald Trump had pulled his endorsement because Jeff Hurd voted essentially against the tariffs. He was one of the Republicans voted. And there was, for about 72 hours, Donald Trump, the NRCC, everybody was going to pull their support. And then the chosen primary challenger, they found a job, I think, somewhere in Washington. And it's interesting to me, Hurd won. Look, he had a primary challenge, but he won 2-1. He may break 70. He may not, but he has won. There was some talk of Democrats targeting this seat, but Hurd is no Lauren Boebert. This is the old Boebert seat, or a portion of it. Erin, what would you add here to this, and how do you assess? Is Hurd out of the woods now?
No, I don't think he's definitely not entirely out of the woods in this cycle. I think this is still a reach seat for Democrats, but compared to the 5th district, another reach seat for them, I think this one's going to be tougher. The trend lines are not going their way here. And, Hurd is moderate Republican, like a genuine moderate. Really is. One of the few left in the House at this point. And, there's a reason that he had so much trouble securing Trump's endorsement. Eventually he had voted against to condemn Trump's tariffs policy earlier, and that was first what drew the president's ire against him. And initially when he ran for Congress here after Boebert left it, he also defeated a much more conservative opponent. So he's always kind of been branded as a bit of a moderate. I think, by nature of this district, it is still a seat that, Trump won by.
Well, we haven't called the Democratic side on this one. Romero, Keloff. Right now it's 55-45. Yep. We still, it's too close to call that. What do we know about Dwayne Romero?
Yeah, Dwayne Romero, he's a veteran. He got a significant endorsement the other day, and I'm trying to remember who it was from, but I think he was kind of seen between the two as the stronger general election candidates, I would say for sure. And he had gotten in the race.
How doable is it? Are we talking about like a Democratic generic ballot lead of 5-7 or 7-10 or 10 plus for us to be talking about this kind of seat?
It's a Trump 10 seat. So I haven't seen any recent polling there. I don't know what the generic looks like at this point. I would assume that a Republican should be ahead by at least a couple of points still here in this district. But it's certainly on the edge of the
third or fifth. I mean, if you were to say which one of these Republican reaches,
that's a good one.
Yeah,
the fifth is definitely the fifth trend lines are moving Democrats' way in a much clearer direction as opposed to the third district, which has like some of those vacation towns in the Rockies, but also has just a lot of like rural western and southern Colorado as well. That is a lot less volatile. But the fifth district, that's Colorado Springs, and this is one of the few districts that actually trended Democrats' way pretty consistently. It shifted left between 2020 and 2024, so Kamala Harris actually did better than Biden did here. So I think this one,
the Colorado Springs thing is fascinating. We were talking about.
By the way,
it's like the base of the social conservative movement for decades.
Yeah,
I interviewed their immigrant mayor Yemi, who became a citizen only about 8 years ago. He's been elected their mayor, and the first hire he made was his opponent to be his chief of staff. And I have to tell you, he's one of the more fascinating people I've interviewed in politics this year. And
what's his name again, Chuck?
Well, he goes by Mayor Yemi. You're going to ask me his last name.
Oh, sorry. I would not have asked you. I did not mean to ask you to trip you up. I asked you.
No, it's okay. He goes by Mayor Yemi because not everybody can, he doesn't want to presume everybody can pronounce his name. But the point is, and we talked a lot about the demographic changes. I mean, Colorado Springs is a defense contractor town more than it is an evangelical town anymore.
Yes.
Is that the fairest way to describe it, Aaron?
Absolutely. It has one of the largest military presences in the country, with the Air Force Base there. And
it's Mayor Yemi Mobolade, by the way. Thank you, Lauren Gardner, my producer, who produced that interview. So, of course, he's got to know.
Yeah,
I see it. Oh, sorry.
Gotten so much growth also as Denver has. People have become priced out of Denver and have moved into Colorado Springs. So a lot of it is also kind of in-state migration as well. But yes, this is certainly not the focus on the family evangelical district that you might remember from 20 years ago anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just noted somebody asking in the comments, who is this Reagan guy? Jessica Killen with Decision Desk is projected won the Democratic primary for the 5th district. She's the former chief of staff to second gentleman Doug Emhoff. I hope I'm not retreading over ground you guys already went over.
Those are good.
No, you're good.
But she anyway, she's going to be the nominee here against Jeff Crank, the Republican incumbent in this Colorado Springs based seat. Reagan was the nominee in 2024 and lost to Crank. So Army veteran, but was familiar to some people. Anyway, just people were curious about that.
I don't believe he was.
Look, the Democratic Party has been trying to win over Reagan Democrats for how long now?
They did it. Hey, Aaron, can we take one big step back? Where are you guys in fight for the House right now? When it looks like the redistricting thing, we're done with it for now, right? At least for this election. Where are you guys in terms of seats and probability?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most likely outcome as a result of redistricting is that Republicans net around 5 seats ultimately, which effectively gives them like an 8-seat majority since they were starting out with a 3-seat majority. And, if you look at, we currently have, there's a few more seats that actually favor Republicans than Democrats right now. But then if you look at our toss-up column, 14 out of 18 of those seats are held by Republicans. And so Democrats would need to win a majority of the toss-up seats right now in order to win the House. But, I think I think at a certain point, some of those seats are going to become clearly lean D seats. Hard to say at this point which ones those are. But yeah, I mean, a good night for Democrats with all this redistricting would probably be them like picking up 20 seats, maybe even like in the teens. You could probably qualify that as a good night. 20 would be a great night.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron.
Yeah.
I was curious for your thoughts about, obviously, we're looking at a situation where Milad Kiros may end up winning this race. There's obviously been a lot of talk about Chevalier winning in New York City and what have you. And obviously, I think Republicans want to attach these candidates to every Democrat running nationally. But I kind of was curious for your sense of just the relative effectiveness or ineffectiveness of that approach, or is it something that's actually going to matter? Because I think at the end of the day, it's like economy and all these other things, but clearly there is an opportunity here for Republicans to try to tag Democrats as extreme with some of these candidates.
Yeah, I think so. My take is that it won't matter that much because I don't think adding another, socialist boogeyman to the attack ad necessarily be that effective. And voters are not going to know who Chevalier is. They're not going to know who Kiros is unless they live in those media markets. And so, you're going to see people are going to try to tie them to AOC. Bernie will probably see Pelosi less. So she was kind of the quintessential.
It's going to be Bernie and AOC over Pelosi this year.
Oh yeah,
absolutely, yeah. But which was already the case. But I don't think adding these, new incoming squad members does much to that. And maybe
Aaron, while we have you here, we like to give people some flavor in some of these primaries. Let's play some of the back and forth and the ads in Colorado 1 between DeGette and Kiros.
Fighting back against Donald Trump and the MAGA agenda. That's job number one. I'm Diana DeGette. In Congress, I'm fighting to defend our democracy, protect abortion rights, lower the cost of housing and groceries, and pass Medicare for all, so every Colorado family has affordable health care. I'll never stop fighting the corruption, cruelty, and dangerous behavior of extreme Republicans. I approve this message because our democracy is worth fighting for.
I'm Milad Kiros. I'm a lawyer, an immigrant raised in Denver, and I'm running for Congress because establishment Democrats have failed us. Diana DeGette has been in office for decades, backed by the same billionaires and corporations who keep our prices high, burn our planet, and profit from genocide. It's time for a change. It's time for Medicare for all. It's time to abolish ICE and to actually fight back against Donald Trump. I'm Milad Kiros, and I approve this message.
What jumped out at me, Aaron, on both of those ads is, first of all, both candidates spoke. And in a member of Congress reelect ad, you don't see that often. And more interesting to me is I never saw the words reelect once in that DeGette ad. Like she went out of her way, it felt like, to not paint herself as a veteran politician.
Yeah, no, that's a liability right now. I mean, I think her tenure in Congress and her relative anonymity was one of the, if not the major factors in the reason that she's lost or looks like she is going to lose tonight. And I think, it's notable that she is speaking in that ad. Also kind of notable though that they're not showing any video footage of her. It's only stills, which makes her seem, less energetic by comparison to her challenger, who's of course much younger. So that contrast is already inherent there. But yeah, I mean, I think that this was kind of a case where it feels like she was just caught off guard too late. I think, they had their...
How is that possible?
We've had primaries before.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Right? I mean, he did in 2018. I mean, I remember it was like Dick Lugar. He got caught off guard in Indiana. Yeah, because he hadn't had a race in like 30 years. But like Diana DeGette, I mean, I remember back when I was a younger man. she would occasionally, because it's such a lefty district, right? There'd be like some ambitious
part of Denver,
Democrat,
Yeah.
right? Who would like? How the hell do you get caught off guard?
I don't know.
I mean,
and
that's not for you to answer, Aaron. I'm sorry.
No, some of it. I mean, it was interesting. Like the outside groups like came in for Espaillat earlier than they came in for DeGette. So maybe I don't want to pin the blame on like her own campaign entirely. It feels like maybe it was just like a matter of like New York sucking up all the oxygen and people not realizing how much steam Quiros had picked up. Though, if you were paying attention in Colorado ahead of the primaries, they have these assemblies, which is the main process for making the ballot. You have to have a certain threshold of support from delegates in order to make the primary ballot, or you go the signature gathering route. DeGette had not gone the signature gathering route, so she needed to get enough votes in the assembly in order to get on the ballot, and she only barely got that. And obviously this is like a very left-wing sample of people. She got about 33%, I think, but she needed 30%. So the fact that it was close at all should have been a big red flag.
So Aaron, to me, Jeffrey asked you about, are any of these going to matter in November? And I'm with all of you guys. I mean, they couldn't even make Mamdani hit Mikey Sherrill in the governor's race back and that to me had you had you shared a media market, right? And they struggled with that. So I accept the premise it isn't going to be a November issue. This is going to be a January issue though. So are you guys keeping track? What is the DSA or DSA adjacent caucus going to look like so far? Are we up to 7? Are we up to 8? I mean, we just added 3 in New York.
Well,
we
depends how Brad Lander is really DSA,
he's not.
Lander is that's why I call him DSA adjacent.
DSA
I think he's clearly DSA adjacent. So anyway, go ahead.
So I think if you're looking at the Justice Dem endorsements, which is generally a good proxy for the DSA, so far they have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 with Quiros, new members who are.
And they already had how many?
And they currently have 7 in the squad. And so
that's 13.
What we're getting at is, I'm looking at 218 for a speaker vote.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many of them have said they're not going to vote for Jeffries on the campaign?
Exactly. Because I'm sorry, this crowd is going to learn from what the far right pulled off in essentially controlling. I mean, look at how well the Republicans are running their majority right now. If this is not a 15-seat pickup, Aaron, and it's in that 8 to 12 range, which look, the big campaign finance equivalency ruling today is, Republicans have gotten a lot of help everywhere outside of the ballot lately when it comes to either the remap rulings or this money ruling. Boy, 8 to 12 means there are enough Justice Democrats to basically withholds enough support for Speaker.
In theory, yeah. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case.
Right. We have to wait and see.
I think there is a range within that caucus, even obviously, like AOC has been very cautious in endorsements this cycle. He's not endorsing against
running
incumbents. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I do think it's a real concern that leadership has, House Democratic leadership has.
All right, Aaron Covey, House editor of the Cook Political Report with Amy Walter. Always a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for being slightly early so we could get you ready as we called.
Yeah, of course, anytime.
Colorado 8. Take care. Thanks.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, Aaron.
So we're almost to the top of the hour. Skelly, do you want to?
Let's do a little recap here.
What's been called, and then I would say especially on Colorado 1 and the governor's race, kind of what DDHQ's thinking is. So neither of those have been called yet.
Yes. So in races that are of interest tonight, we don't have any projections yet in the sort of major statewide races. Jeff Hurd survived.
I was just going to say, let's put up some
numbers here. In the 3rd congressional district, Jeff Hurd survived a more right-wing challenge from Ron Hanks, despite his sort of will he, won't he, will he endorsement from President Trump. And he'll face. We don't have a projection yet on the Democratic side in that race. We'll see how it pans out. It might be Dwayne Romero. Alex Keloff's not out of it yet, though. Again, as Aaron was saying, that's the seat that Republicans at least will start out as favorites in. for the fall. We'll see how it progresses from there. In the 5th congressional district, Colorado Springs, Jessica Killen has won the Democratic nomination there. She'll face Jeff Crank, the other Jeff. And in the 8th congressional district, which is the really swingy seat in Colorado, held by Republican Gabe Evans, who ousted very narrowly won in 2024 that seat. He's going to face State Representative Manny Rutinel, who won the Democratic primary there. Moving to the statewide races, John Hickenlooper is the familiar name who seems to be in the most comfortable shape. To use sort of
comfortable is imagine what we'd be if there's no Michael Bennett story tonight.
Yep.
We'd be going only up by 15.
John Hickenlooper,
Mayor of Denver,
60?
Mayor of Denver,
right.
Governor of the state, U.S. Senator.
Yeah, no, Mayor of Denver, but 50-50 in Denver. I mean, obviously it's been a bit since he was there mayor.
Yep,
so
still.
But nonetheless. But he, at this point, we haven't projected it yet, but basically we're waiting on the next drop of votes. When we say drop, we mean next set of votes that will be tabulated and added to the total. And we're watching because the last set did move against Hickenlooper a little bit, and we're just trying to make sure that there's not going to be a really dramatic shift in the last bit of votes here. That's the reason we haven't projected there yet. Somewhat similarly, although
this one feels like we're awfully close.
We're close. So
more vote, and Michael Bennett made up
a little, but not enough, probably.
Yeah, in the gubernatorial race on the Democratic side, Jared Polis is term limited, so this is the race to likely succeed him. Democrats will be favored to hold the governorship in Colorado. Phil Weiser, the Attorney General, is up by not quite 10, about a little over 9 percentage points over U.S. Senator Michael Bennett, who is running for a job back home. And I think it's a similar situation. We're just waiting for a little bit more vote, but you have to think Weiser is definitely in pretty good shape at this point. It would be hard to imagine him losing this lead, but we're not at the point where we can totally write that off yet.
Pretty remarkable.
And then who would face him? Well, we don't really know yet either here. Barb Kirkmeyer, who's a former state legislator, former state legislator. She actually lost a congressional race.
By the way, we were talking about the difference. By the way, I'm going to put a pin in something here because, and Jeffrey, humor me, go back and forth.
Sure.
Look what you got your total vote here, essentially among statewide Republicans in this race. You have to go look at the total vote in the Democratic side.
Yeah, so it's like 380 right now.
Yeah, you really see
600 plus. Yeah,
right. This is no longer a purple state, right? This is a blue state. Like
amazing.
It is sort of it's funny. The gap between total primary turnout
390 right now. Yeah.
Total primary turnout does tell you a story, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look what we saw in Texas, where even though we know there's a massive advantage for the R's. Primary turnout, I think Democrats had a slight edge on the big primary night.
Georgia.
This just
been a bunch.
Shows you the massive. It really is hard to look at this state as a competitive statewide place, even though it is 40% of the congressional districts, 45% are
8 seats.
Republican, right? 4 Republican seats.
Maybe this is actually this is maybe an opportunity to just mention that the Colorado State Supreme Court actually ruled a number of propositions that were going to be on the ballot this November, basically threw them off the ballot because they ruled that they dealt with more than one issue, which is like they have a very strict interpretation of that in Colorado. And basically that was Democrats trying to set up a redistricted map in Colorado, a 7-1 map. With the 8 congressional districts there, because right now it's a 4-4 split, even though Colorado is definitely a blue-leaning state. But the hinge point, the swing seat, is that 8th district. But President Trump did narrowly carry it. Just to finish off, the biggest race of the night, or the race that has sort of the most national prominence, is the 1st congressional district, where we are waiting to see basically one more release of votes. Malak Kiros, the challenger against Representative Diane DeGette, is up by a couple points. I would say that we have reason to think that the votes that are tabulated later, which means they were turned in later, Those tend to be more progressive leaning. We've seen this over and over again in other races, which would be good for Kiros. So we're basically just waiting to see a little confirmation of that, and then I would imagine.
Hey, I'm gonna put a little challenge in here for our viewers, our commenters. First one to say it, we're gonna give you a shout out. Last sitting U.S. senator to lose a primary for governor.
Oh,
so go ahead, commenters. Give us your answer in there. I don't want you guys to give it away.
I'll monitor. Skelly and I will monitor. Hey, I got a question for you two guys. What's a bigger story? DeGette losing or Michael Bennett losing? Yeah, and that includes who they're losing to, right? Like Kiros and the DSA and all that.
I would say DeGette in that case, I think, is the bigger story, only because Weiser is a second-term attorney general. I don't know.
I got to give a shout out before I lose him here. Jared Sarah 6642 nailed it. K. Bailey Hutchison.
K. Bailey.
Sorry. We wanted to give a little fun there. Good job,
Jared.
Sarah 6642. That's right. Well done.
Yeah.
And K. Bailey Hutchison did not run for the Senate again, by the way.
That's right. What do you think, Chuck? Is DeGette losing or Bennett losing a bigger story tomorrow?
I agree with Jeffrey. DeGette's the bigger story because it has more direct impact, right? Kiros, when you have this growing block of what is going to be a very activist House caucus, this is not going to be a go along, get along congressional progressive caucus, this is going to be the liberal freedom caucus. Now, they'll be different, right? They won't be exactly the same, but they're going to, everything I've watched over the last 18 months since Trump came back is a Democratic Party, both in certain activist groups and in certain think tanks, who all have decided, hey, let's figure out how to use the same tactics, but on behalf of liberals and progressives. So, for instance, one of the big think tanks in DC on the left is trying to figure out, okay, how can we essentially abuse executive authority,
for our purposes,
for the purposes to help the left the way Trump is, rather than trying to say, hey, we shouldn't have this. Essentially, what the progressive movement has said, screw it. If they want to do it, then we want to do it.
Fight fire.
I think it's probably
learn from the tactics.
Correct.
I was going to say, I also think it's helped them, obviously, that, if you're making arguments about electability, but Donald Trump managed to win again in 2024, and you backed Joe Biden,
that's
until they
you
couldn't
backed
anymore.
Joe Biden against Bernie Sanders, the
this is
beloved
really,
figure.
I mean, I think the Democratic Party's leadership is in a really tough spot for making any sort of compelling cases. A compelling case.
The irony of Michael Bennett,
like, we're not going to listen to you. Look where you got us. Is kind of what people would be saying.
I don't want to. I can't out my source on this other than saying a sitting U.S. senator said to me when Bennett first announced his candidacy for governor, literally was depressed and said to me, and I just happened to run into him at an event and was talking about it, and goes, I was counting on Michael Bennett to replace Chuck Schumer.
Yep.
Like that was the.
But Michael Bennett probably saw the writing on the wall, though, Chuck.
That's what senators.
Yep.
Look, Bennett is one of those guys that has, he's sort of like, this is going to be a weird comparison, but stay with me here. So Martin Short, I love Martin Short, but Martin Short doesn't have the following that he should, but comedians have Martin Short at the top of the pyramid, right?
Yeah.
He's a comedian's comedian. There's this just lionization of him that's a little bit different. And it's just sort of, and Bennett among fellow senators, left and right, they're like, that guy's an honest guy. That guy keeps his word. That's a guy I like to work with. Like he's really popular in the room, right? But that voters don't care about that. And I understand why voters don't. I'm not going to sit here and say they should, but he is one of those, he's a senator. And I actually mean that as a compliment. And yet, like I said, it's not going to hit as a compliment to even our crowd.
I always heard that too, right? Like he's got the demeanor and he's calm and he's honest. At the same time, Chuck, I wonder if you're Michael Bennett, maybe it does, and you think Schumer probably goes in 2028, right? And would you run for governor if you thought the path was there for leader, or does he think, well, the caucus is too lefty now, I probably won't win, why don't I go be governor? I mean, it's a weird move if it'd be like if John Thune 4 years ago was like, I'm gonna run for governor.
Look, I was shocked because I just didn't, he's not, I remember when he got appointed to the seat, there were
no one knew who the hell he was.
Nobody knew who he was. He didn't really have a lot of Colorado roots.
No.
He sort of was hired to run that school system.
He grew up in DC, did he not? I mean,
right. He's the son of a diplomat. He was born in overseas when his dad was serving as a U.S. diplomat. So his mother, a Holocaust survivor, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I did not know
one of the living. In fact,
and
she's a living Holocaust survivor.
Wondering,
I saw her recently, and she is just a dynamo, I have to tell you.
I did not know that. For other people who are wondering about the odd spelling of the last name, it is Bennett, Bennet. His brother is James Bennett, very famously. Talk about being the next in line for something, Chuck. I mean, I think 10 years ago, we thought James Bennett would be the next editor of the New York Times. He was the editor of their opinion.
Hey, by the way, I love this. I want to shout out AP Reed 20DX, who says, I'm a first-time voter in Colorado 1. I think I'm the elusive Hickenlooper Weiser Quiros voter.
There's always one. There's always one.
Yes.
Yep. Hey, Skelly, I'm seeing people in the chat. I just want you to explain the how DDHQ does this. They're saying the New York Times has called Weiser for governor. Why hasn't DDHQ? Can you kind of touched on this, but I just want you to, first of all, I'm not sure the New York Times calls races, but regardless,
no, they
can
do.
You explain they do. Okay. Explain the process and what we're waiting for. Oh, it's the AP that's called the race. I thank you, Nathaniel Rakich.
Basically, we were just trying to. Bennett gained a little bit, has been gaining a little bit, as opposed to coming statewide. Denver. We're waiting on Quiros to maybe gain in Denver, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be the same everywhere. And so if Bennett's gaining some statewide, we're essentially just trying to make sure that he's not gaining so much that he's going to actually be able to catch Weiser. So we're waiting on just a few more votes to confirm that the trend, even if that trend continues, that it is not substantial enough for him to have a shot.
Better to be right than first.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I know, but AP's freaking out.
Way.
They rarely are able calling anything before DDHQ. So
DDHQ is always right and first. That's why we are paired with them. Can we bring Nathaniel Rakich in, the man of many hats, quite literally?
Hey guys.
He's got the Rockies
Let's see.
hat
Is
tonight.
he on brand tonight?
Rocky.
Very good.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
Were you the only person who purchased a Colorado Rockies hat, Nathaniel?
Stop.
I purchased this a long time ago. I don't remember if they were any good that season.
Yes.
I will tell you, just Nathaniel, I'm going to defend here. The single greatest seat in a baseball stadium.
It's amazing.
In the center field bleachers.
You can see the mountains.
Center field bleachers? Oh,
they have center field bleachers, which no other stadium has.
That's true.
But if you're at home plate, Chuck, you can see the Rockies. I mean, it's gorgeous.
It is. A day game. I lived for about a year in Colorado in the 90s, and a day game at Coors Field.
Awesome.
I mean, you sit there and you're like,
why
why would I ever? The dumbest thing I ever did was leave Colorado. I'm one of the few idiots that moved there, got a residency, and then left. Most people never leave once they move there.
I mean, it is a beautiful place. Nathaniel, Skelly's got Quiros to get up. It appears to be moving in Quiros's direction broadly. Jeffrey's made this point and explained why. Surprised, not surprised? What does it tell us about Colorado, but also more importantly in the wake of New York about sort of state of the Democratic Party?
No, I'm not surprised. I think that after last week in New York, a lot of people were on alert for this race. This was a serious challenge.
We talked about it last week with you.
Exactly. That's true. And you kind of do think about, right. Like, I think that, as we talked about last week, I do think that there is clearly a movement of discontent among the Democratic base with their leadership. I also think that discontent is focused in certain places, particularly like urban places with lots of kind of like young voters. New York qualifies, and I think Denver qualifies, although, Denver has a lot of different people of many different ages and
but
races.
The DeGette seat itself is very in the
Yes,
city.
it is
That's
the
like city center,
urban-
right?
Exactly.
I mean,
Oh, it's almost exactly coterminous with the city.
Right, you got that
county,
little,
and
see that little purple bit there?
That's Arapahoe.
That is Arapahoe County, a little enclave of Arapahoe
They're
County.
little enclaves. They're
It's a fun
coupled
fact.
those. Yeah,
I know that you
yeah.
guys were talking earlier about Broomfield County, and
Yes.
Colorado has some weird county shapes. So,
Yeah.
but yes, I am not surprised. I think the other thing about DeGette is that she's been a kind of uninspiring incumbent for a while now. So you guys may have talked about this already, but in 2018, she faced a credible, she ended up winning it, fairly decisively, but a credible challenge from Sarah Rao. In 2020, she looked like she was going to face, she attracted a very high profile challenger in Christine Duran, who I believe was the State House Speaker. But she ended up dropping out of that race, I think, for personal reasons. And so we never actually got to see that matchup. But she has, I think, been seen as a little bit weaker of a candidate for a while. So, my guess right now, you guys were talking about it, but like with Quiros up right now, and with the fact that the later ballots tend to be more progressive, my guess is that I would rather be Quiros. That's always the phrase that we used at 538 when we didn't want to say, oh, so-and-so is going to win. But I would say, oh, I'd rather be Quiros in this situation. And like, to be clear, nobody is calling this race, but I think the odds are higher that Quiros will win than that DeGette will win at this point.
And what does that mean, Nathaniel? Just take it out a little bit more. What does that? I mean, Chuck, we've been talking about how big is the DSA/DSA adjacent vote?
Yes, yeah.
In a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries vote. I mean, several of these people, not all of them, but several of them have done the I won't vote for Jeffries, or I haven't decided if he's Speaker. Like, what?
That's interesting.
Are we in the search for who the Democratic Matt Gaetz is? Do you know what I mean? Like, even before this all gets started, or will they just kind of get in line?
Maybe it'd say Jim Jordan.
Yeah, Democrat Matt Gaetz is a tough one. Tough to get out.
No, it's very interesting. And I think you're absolutely right to hit on that because, I also remember, back when Jeffrey and I were at 538, we did a piece around the 2022 election that was like, significant number. We took up the data on people who had said they weren't voting for McCarthy, and that ended up obviously being quite prescient. And so I think that somebody out there should start collecting that data for Jeffries. I think it's interesting because Democrats, I think, as we also discussed last week, I think Democrats tend to be they are more interested in governing as a project. And so I think for that reason, they are less inclined to kind of just completely gum up the works the way that Republicans have been willing to do. And there's not like an obvious,
it's not AOC as an alternative, right?
I guess what's Republicans didn't have an obvious alternative either, but
that's true. But to your governing point,
I guess the question, Nathaniel, the thing that I've been noting is that there's a lot of activity on the left in trying to essentially borrow some tactics of the right, whether it's Project 2025, figuring out use executive power. Hey, if this is going to be unchecked, is there a way to use it in a progressive way unchecked, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. We could, if you throw in, we did the math with our last guest, if you throw in who the Justice Democrats already consider sort of in their side and who they've supported, we're looking at a caucus of somewhere around a dozen right now, right? Could be somewhere between 12
to 13. Yeah.
Yep. That's probably the most likely pickup number, right? Is 12 to 15 overall. Like that they could have a big enough chunk of vote in theory to at least extract things from Jeffries.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's important to remember that this is all a spectrum and it's all a negotiation, right? And I think there are many variables, including how big Democrats' majority ends up being. Not every candidate who was endorsed by Justice Democrats is necessarily going to be as hardline as others. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some who are, never Jeffries people. And then there's some who maybe, their support can be won over. But yeah, I think that, we are in an era of, as Jeffrey has written, of narrow congressional majorities, most likely, probably only going to be made worse by redistricting. And so I do think that, as the left gains ground in these primaries, eventually, even if it doesn't happen this cycle, they will probably constitute enough kind of that decisive majority making group. And then, if they decide that they want to get together and cause some problems, then they can cause some problems. But I think it's something that Jeffries needs to be aware of and might have to address. I'm not sure I'm buying tickets to that speaker vote quite yet, but we'll see.
Oh, hey, I just noticed some folks, and Nathaniel, you'll appreciate this as someone interested in how elections work. The ins and outs of elections at VoteBeat. Jenna Griswold, the two-term Secretary of State, who I think wanted to run for governor, but
and bailed when
Michael got scared out of by Bennett, right?
She decided, hey, I'm going to run for Attorney General, and I saw some people asking in the chat what was happening in that race.
Yep.
Because Phil Weiser is running for governor. He's termed out as Attorney General. So Griswold looks like she will be making the shift over from the Secretary of State to Attorney General and keep her hopes of maybe eventually becoming governor alive.
Yes, aspiring governor.
Or maybe U.S. Senator. Who knows?
No, I think this makes sense. As a statewide elected official, she's got that platform. I think it's probably a good fit for her in that, she had been criticized by some as too partisan of a Secretary of State. Obviously, Secretary of State, the job that runs voting, which is not a job that you usually want partisanship in. Whereas Attorney General, their kind of job, especially increasingly these days, is basically to sue the federal government over things that your party doesn't like. So
that's
she'll be able to do that.
Job description of every AG now, just who's your president? Are you of the same party? No, then go this path.
Well, also, even if you it's the Ken Paxton, right? It's the same thing. That's how Ken Paxton wins Donald Trump's heart.
Yeah.
Nathaniel, what's your take on the Bennett and Hickenlooper number? I mean, Chuck made the right point, which is if Bennett wasn't down by 9, we'd probably be like, how in the hell does the former mayor of Denver, former governor, and former senator only at 57 against a credible, but not overly credible.
By the way, I've been waiting for a moment, so I'm going to interrupt you. This is the final set of ads that we have, but let's do the Gonzalez Hickenlooper back and forth.
Yeah.
Take one look around and ask, who's in control? Insurance companies dictate our doctors, rogue, masked agents decide whether our neighbors stay or disappear. The establishment, the oligarchs, they tell us that they have enough for bombs and for ballrooms, but that they ain't got enough for us. I'm Julie Gonzalez, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate to take back control for us. At the state capitol, I brought in $500 million for affordable housing, held toxic polluters to account. We codified abortion protections into state law. But what are we getting out of Washington? John Hickenlooper has been in office for over 20 years. I know we're not fooled by his so-called common sense approach, because there is no sense in voting for Donald Trump's nominees or parading across the country to tell us we don't want universal health care when millions of families are struggling to make ends meet every month. This go-along to get-along politics is robbing us blind.
I'm John Hickenlooper, and this is me in 30 seconds. I started my career as a geologist, but I got laid off. We opened the wine coop, the first brew pub in Colorado, still going strong. I served as the mayor of Denver, then governor of Colorado. We expanded healthcare and cut pollution in order to fight climate change. As senator, we stopped Trump from selling our public land. And we're fighting to overhaul ICE and lower costs, but the stakes are too high to slow down. So let's keep fighting.
John Hickenlooper, who famously said, I don't want to be a senator. And then, of course, a few months later, it's like, oh, I'm going to run for Senate.
I was going to say,
you got to beat Cory Gardner.
The John Hickenlooper ad, man, that is a classic genre. This man is known for his creative TV ads. You could see this one wasn't that creative, but you could see kind of the energy in it. But
I wanted the guy who, when he ran for mayor, just put quarters in the parking meters.
Yep, the parking meter.
How about the guy who took the shower with his clothes on about the negative ads?
Love it.
He's to Nathaniel's point. I mean, I believe it's still Mark Putnam that makes his ads, but they're always that one's not as.
No, he used before Putnam. He had, it was the guy who used to do the the Ventura ads. He was sort of an off the beat.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who you're
That's
talking
who
about. I know
Hickenlooper
Putnam
used
did the
first.
shower ad because I
think
remember it got a
Putnam
lot of
did the
attention.
came
Now
in
I always
later
said to
after that.
people,
Yeah.
it's easy to do an ad about.
Hey,
having
we have a
beat.
projection.
Oh, go.
Hey.
And there it is.
See, we just wanted a few more votes, but we have a projection in for Colorado governor in the Democratic primary that Phil Weiser, the state attorney general, will defeat Michael Bennet, the sitting U.S. senator. And this is my opportunity to bring up one of my favorite little tidbits from this election cycle, which is we have a record number since the dawn of popular elections for Senate, a record number of U.S. senators running for governor this election cycle. Yeah,
Say it with
one of
me.
them just lost.
Congress.
Washington is terrible. Exactly. It's no
This is
fun.
our
Yep.
538. We always were like hashtag Congress sucks anytime you saw something like that. And here we go. Yes, record 4 senators running for governor, but one of them, Michael Bennet, has lost. Tommy Tuberville already won the Republican nomination in Alabama, so he's a good bet to win the governorship there. Although Doug Jones, we'll see, Chuck.
He's got a real rate. Look, I am.
That's Chuck's hobby horse.
Doug Jones is going to make it more interesting than it
Tommy
would be.
Tuberville just makes a lot of self-inflicted, mistakes.
Yeah. He's going to run well
handing his
behind
tax
what a
returns.
Republican should be getting in Alabama.
He's handed his tax returns to the press, like completely, sort of proving that
That was
maybe,
the best.
I mean,
the QR code, the QR
illegal,
code.
That he probably doesn't meet the 7-year
And he
residency
doesn't.
requirement.
We've talked about this. He almost certainly doesn't meet the residency requirement.
Yeah.
I know it's not going to matter, but Klobuchar we expect to
Klobuchar unusually in this. I mean, it just really shows.
It's amazing. I'm with you, Jeffrey. When you
She
think
should be getting like a progressive challenger, and everyone's just like, "Oh, thank God she's running," and saving us from Tim Walz running again.
It is amazing because given all the activity on the left right now and in Minnesota and how frankly fertile the ground is in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Senate
got to
race.
be looking at Michael Bennet going, I can't believe I ducked this.
Yep.
And then, Marsha Blackburn is the other. And she is favored to win in the Republican primary for governor in Tennessee. So
Nathaniel's officially an anti-Washington election cycle. Do we now say, is this an anti-incumbent election cycle? Do we say that? Are we just in an anti-incumbent era?
I mean, yes, I generally think that's true. I think this race is a little complicated because you have, an incumbent senator and an incumbent attorney general. So they're both kind of insidery in their own ways. One is, DC insidery, which I think is, a worse brand right now. My kind of understanding of this race is that it wasn't as much of a, kind of like establishment versus anti-establishment thing. Phil Weiser wasn't, going out being like, the DC establishment sucks and I'm going to shake everything up. I think he just kind of like was cultivating those in-state relationships more. And Bennett, I think, was seen as not running the strongest campaign, maybe taking some things for granted. Big win for Weiser. Obviously, he's going to be favored in the fall. Do we know who the Republican nominee is going to be yet? Is that one?
No, we still don't have
hasn't moved for a while. It's basically been that margin for a while.
I mean, I think he wants to face Marks of the two.
Heck yeah. If you're a Democrat,
for a 2/3 majority in the state legislature, are also probably hoping that Marks wins because that might help them.
Is a supermajority possible, Jeffrey? How close are they?
Yeah. There was some conversation about this. I haven't dug into it too deeply, so I don't want to.
Amazing. I mean, it just speaks to Colorado's change. What we've been talking about.
But I was just reading, some of the synopsis of the state Supreme Court in Colorado basically ruling.
I wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, Nathaniel, let me cue you up.
For it.
Go for it.
Yeah. So on Monday, the Colorado State Supreme Court struck down Democrats' effort to circumvent the Independent Redistricting Commission in Colorado. So another state court loss, similar. It was for different
not
legal
quite
reasons.
as dramatic as the Virginia one.
As Virginia,
still.
right? But Democrats, I think now officially are pissed at state Supreme Courts. But yes, they basically ruled that
they could join the U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The right hates their court right now on the federal level.
Yeah. But the ruling basically relied on, it was a technicality like the Virginia one, where basically it said that the ballot measures, plural, did not stick to a single subject, which is a requirement in Colorado. And even when Democrats broke up, they basically were like, here's one ballot measure that would suspend the commission, and here's another ballot measure that would implement a map. They were like, you're trying to be too clever. Those, together, like, they still rely on each other, and therefore you're trying to circumvent the spirit of the law, which is to stick to one single subject. So Democrats had visions of a 7-1 map, which would have, obviously scrambled a lot of these, races. We've talked about, Jeff Hurd and Jeff Crank and stuff like that. And, these people would have been in danger in such a world, but it looks like Colorado.
They may end up with a 6-2 map though. Right?
That's right. Just by a good election year.
Yeah.
Well, that's the same thing with Virginia. It could be.
This was always.
That's right. We talked about it.
Always been my argument
too.
Yeah. Your guy. It's a lot of money and anxiety and political capital for 1 or 2 extra seats. When and I get it. Every seat matters, but it's not a 4-seat game the way it was being talked about.
That's
in Virginia.
Right. It's not really California. It's right.
Ditto in Colorado. Yeah.
All right, Nathaniel. Hey, go check out VoteBeat and Nathaniel's work there. Of the 538 diaspora, and there are many of them. I've always been a big Nathaniel fan of it. And go follow him. It's still base ballot on Twitter and everywhere else, right?
And always will be.
See, and that's what won my heart. The concentric circles of political and baseball nerds are right. It's very
really
you're looking at 4 of them right here.
Actually.
It is. By the way, the original, to me, the OG of this is Tom Davis. If you've ever
spent
interesting.
Former Virginia congressman, huge baseball guy.
Knew everything. He knew his stuff like we do, and then some. And he knew his baseball stats. He would sit there and say, you know who carried this county in the 48 presidential, and by the way, in 48.
But Chuck,
let me tell you about Carl Erskine and what he did. Like that was Tom Davis.
Is like Buster Olney really? We need to find people. I know. Like there's some college football people who are really into politics. I'm not going to name all of them.
There are some
more baseball people who are into like nerdy politics like us.
Yes, there are some particular people in baseball media who I've become friendly with who are really into politics. We're 538 readers. I think there's something about how your brain works, especially if you're a more kind of like sabermetrics inclined person, right? If you're that kind of analyst in baseball, then I think you were also obsessing over the polls and the models and the
Hey, Daniel, you get to be here for this.
Okay.
In the
the big call.
Quiros will defeat Diana DeGette, the incumbent Democratic member from the 1st Congressional District. This is a seat that Kamala Harris won 77% of the vote in 2024. So Quiros is almost certainly headed to Congress as the next member from here. And this actually is a perfect opportunity to mention. Someone earlier said, "Oh my God, look at the shape of that district." Like it was particularly terrible. Well, that's actually just how Denver's city limits are shaped, which is a product of annexation over time. I think the airport is the thing up in the top right corner, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's in the city limits. Yeah.
When you fly into that airport, the good news is you're really close to getting to the state of Colorado. It's awesome.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It is a long.
Do it like Salt Lake City, man. Salt Lake City Airport is the best. It's like 10 minutes from the downtown. Great job, Utah. Nathaniel,
Nathaniel, I'm going to get you out of here on this since we were having a stat fight, and I saw somebody said bring back the stat wars. Are you a B war guy or an F war guy?
So nerdy.
You want to know how nerdy I am? I am an F war guy for offense and a B war guy for.
Oh my God! Don't ever admit that publicly again.
By the way, I'm not going to explain this. This is a classic. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in on it. And I'm not sure if you know speaks well of you. Like if you know what we're talking about,
you might be true. We could
be as you've ever talked to a member of the other sex, 0.0% like me.
Here. Yeah. This could be a confessional we don't want. Nathaniel, enjoy.
Go check his workout at Beat. Nathaniel, you rock.
Bye, guys.
All right, dude.
All right. Let's bring in our anchor for the night, right? I think he closed this out. Before. Did you not, Beto?
I believe I have. I just can we bring Nathaniel back just so we can pile on him a little bit more?
I don't think we can do. Can we do?
Oh my God.
He's back. I didn't know if we could. I mean,
what's your take on the wars, Kirk?
Yes.
Are you B war, F war?
I'm a very casual observer. I just like to keep score myself at the.
That's nerdy enough. My kids make fun of me because I have a.
He's an OPS guy, you know. I mean, it's fine.
It's just on base. Plus,
I'm just like, if they get on base, they get on base. Like if you win elections, you win elections. That's how I'm very old school. Like
you're like a Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber, home runs, walks, and strikeouts. We get
it. Hey. Pirates are playing
Nathaniel,
Phillies right now, so we're not Kyle Schwarber at all right now. All right?
Because Kirk, it's after 10:30. We basically got all our races covered. You've got to start putting together. I've got my hotline nominee overlooked for you. All right.
Lay it on me.
All right. So here you go. Nathaniel, stick with me here. So our old friend Quinn McCord was challenging us tonight to try to find out because in theory, we could have seen 2 U.S. senators lose a primary tonight in the same night. And so the question was, when was the last time this was even possible from the same state? And how close have we ever gotten to something like this? Well, the last time
rapidly typing.
Yes. The last time that this was essentially possible where this happened was the last.
This is hard. If you know this,
last in 2002. Frank Murkowski, Ted Stevens.
Yeah.
Murkowski runs for governor. Stevens is up that year. They both win primaries, actually quite comfortably. Yeah. Murkowski's downfall happens now.
Not 4 years later.
Say, they both win general elections in that year.
Correct. Right. It is West Virginia, 1940. Okay.
But there's a more modern connection.
A bit more modern connection where both U.S. senators were, but this is where it's going to get fun for you, Kirk.
I'm literally taking notes as we're talking right now. This is literally going right to my intern tomorrow.
Right. The senior senator, Neely, decides to run for governor. He wins his primary for governor. But that night, the state's junior senator, whose seat is up that cycle, Rush Holt, yes, the father of that Rush Holt.
Mm-hmm. Jeopardy champion Rush Holt.
Former Jeopardy champion Rush Holt. It's his father loses a Democratic primary for Senate. And as Jeffrey pointed out when I brought this one up, he said, hey, didn't that guy become a Republican later down the road?
Yes, Rush Holt Sr. became a Republican later. Ran for office a number of times.
Did everyone in West Virginia?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, no, but this was a lot earlier. This was a lot earlier.
That's true.
This is as close.
Who later became a Republican. It was very interesting.
This is as close to what we're seeing tonight in Colorado as we you have to go back to West Virginia, Democrats, 1940. That's like a deep cut. That's like going, John Reese is going, what are you doing, Chuck?
Totally. You're losing viewers.
And I'm like, but at least I got a Rush Holt reference.
This is DDHQ after dark, guys.
Totally.
If you're sticking
all the races have been called. All the races have been called. If you're still here, you care about this stuff.
Yeah, this is sicko hours here. This is real sicko stuff.
That's right. We're going deep. That's why I waited till you got here, Beto.
That's beautiful.
All right, what's tonight? What's the story? What's the lead?
The lead is that we have a 9th incumbent losing renomination here, and the Democrats are hungry for a fighter. Yeah, I know, Nathaniel, you and I differ on this. You think that there should be.
He ran. He was on a ballot. Voters weighed in, and he stunk up the joint enough that he dropped out.
I understand. But he has dropped.
Oh my
out.
God! This is
Skelly's dream.
Are we going to debate whether someone withdrawing from a runoff counts as a lost renomination?
This is the Tony Gonzalez for people who are wondering.
Are you guys going to fight over this? Where do we put Tony Gonzalez?
I think Tony Gonzalez should count because
he resigned. But
Nathaniel's right. He did run in the primary. I mean, he sought re-election.
Yep, he did seek re-election.
Right. I mean, he ran in the primary, and then anyway,
Van
okay,
Taylor did the same thing 2 years earlier.
I had to go back to my Van Taylor notes from a few years back and see how we counted him, and to keep it consistent with how we did it at Hotline all those years ago, we said that he was a retirement, not a lost renomination. So that is why I'm trying to do here.
Because he withdrew before he lost the runoff.
Correct. He did not face the voters in the runoff. He withdrew there. And so I counted that as a retirement then. And to be consistent, I am treating Tony Gonzalez as a retirement and not a lost renomination.
Kirk, how does this stack up, though, whether it's 9th or 10th? How does it stack up in a non redistrict? I guess every year's redistricting year. But, you know, in 02, like, how does it stack up? Because you do have some of these places like North Carolina where it's like, or in Tennessee, right, where you can't. He's running now in a district. Why can't I think of his name? Steve
Cohen.
Steve Cohen's running in a district where he has no chance, so he retires. But like, how are we trending? I know retirements are higher than they have been traditionally, but incumbents losing, or is it?
Yeah, this is the most retirements that we've had in recent cycles here, at least in the last about
since 92.
Yeah, 92. Thank you. But in terms of losses in a primary, this is the most we've had outside of a redistricting cycle. So if you think about it like this, before the New York primary, I believe it was 6 members lost renomination. 3 were Republicans who crossed Trump, and 3 were because of some sort of redistricting rigmarole, whether it was a member-on-member primary or someone like Dan Crenshaw, who was drawn into a very unfamiliar district and suffered the consequences of that. But after New York, you had 2 members lose renomination there for pretty legitimate reasons. You know, one a little bit more asleep at the wheel, another one probably a little bit more of what we saw tonight, where the politics were very similar, except for maybe a real dividing line on Israel. But Democratic primary voters wanted more of a fighter who was out there, very public about sticking it to Trump. They didn't really reward Representative Dan Goldman for being a lawyer on Trump's first impeachment. Like, if you polled New York voters to find out if they remembered what the first impeachment was, I'd be very curious to see that number as we sit here in the year of our Lord 2026. They wanted someone like Brad Lander, who's going out there and getting arrested every other week for protesting Trump's immigration policies. And that's what we're seeing tonight in Colorado 1. And the other losses that we've had, you know, more of a member asleep at the wheel here. In 2024, we only had 2 members lose renomination on the Democratic side, and both of those were members of the extended squad universe, Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush, and both of those had tons of AIPAC money dropped on them, and they also had personal controversies as well.
Jamal Bowman did I didn't pull the fire alarm, but the video of him pulling the fire alarm, right? Like, I mean, that's not why he lost, but negative
didn't help. It did not help at all. And Cori Bush was like paying her. She was paying her I think now husband or boyfriend or something like that a lot of overtime for security fees as well. So there was like that whole air of corruption around
Cori
her.
Bush is trying to make a comeback, though.
Yeah,
that's
right.
And look, if I'm Wesley Ball, I'm looking over my shoulder right now at that, given these results tonight here. Like, I'm trying to get out there and doing as much public events as possible. You know, Deanna DeGette has represented Denver for 29 years, which is longer than Malat's been alive. Like, they did not reward someone who had very similar politics, but very different style of going about carrying out those politics.
I was thinking that, and you guys are probably uniquely equipped to come up with this, but I was trying to think of the last time like Charlie Rangel is not a good example. The last time a non-scandal plagued long-term incumbent, 15 terms, lost a primary. You know, it just doesn't. Sometimes they'll lose a general election when they've been there forever. And there's, 94 that happened to a bunch of these Democrats. But like 15 terms is a lot of terms. And then you lose in a primary to a 29-year-old. I mean, it shows where voters are, I guess.
Well, I mean,
John
maybe.
Cornyn count?
John Cornyn, right. 02.
would Mike Capuano losing to Ayanna Pressley? I mean, it's still that's a little bit of the same politics, but Capuano, I don't think he was considered very progressive. So was it just sort of like he'd been there a long time and people were looking for a fresh face? The district had changed a lot.
So
Lacey Clay.
Oh, Lacey
Kirk,
Clay.
I'm looking at the remaining. I'm looking at the rest of the calendar here just to see how many more opportunities Justice Democrats, DSA, et cetera, that wing of the party has. So there's definitely John Larson's in big trouble in Connecticut, right?
Yes.
Right. That's
former mayor of Hartford is running against.
That's probably. I'm looking at this list that feels like you got obviously Wesley Bell in the St. Louis seat.
There's a seat in Florida, Chuck.
There's one in Florida. Is there? It's
Jacob.
Well,
yeah,
but
Moskowitz
might have
Moskowitz is going to be fine.
Moskowitz. You think he'll be fine? I'm just saying that's
By the way,
DSA back candidate.
This stuff, good luck. That stuff, Aiden, it will never.
I know in South Florida. Yeah.
I don't buy it. I'm looking. There doesn't seem to be a huge number of places left where we could see this. I mean, I don't think they're messing around.
Is there like a Washington surprise that I'm not thinking of?
Is there am I missing something in Washington? Kirk,
I mean, I guess Wisconsin governor's race could be an example.
Wisconsin governor's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Wisconsin governor, maybe the Michigan Senate race as well.
Massachusetts Senate. Massachusetts Senate to Nathaniel's point. I mean, it's more a generational thing.
Yeah.
I'm really looking at this House caucus, right? This sort of how big could it get, and where could we see additions to it? Certainly in Michigan we could, right? There's some primaries in the House side. Isn't
absolutely the Michigan 7, I believe, has a progressive challenger, more progressive candidate in there. Right. I'm looking at the list of DSA back candidate, Justice Democrat back candidates.
Justice Democrat,
right now, and it doesn't really have a whole lot of opportunities left for them on the board here. They were a little bit more narrow. The biggest one is Cori Bush, obviously. They've also backed Justin Pearson in Tennessee 9. Steve Cohen's
that's the remap. Tennessee 9.
That's the remap.
That's going to win there, right?
That's not
extremely unlikely. Yeah.
But I think Michigan and Wisconsin on August 4th. That's going to be the next big test of progressive power here. But I don't think we should downplay how big of a win for Colorado 1 is for progressives, especially because Malat was running on a very progressive platform of we need more democratic socialists in Congress.
Yes.
Said that very openly.
Abolish ICE, Medicare for all. I mean, there's no screwing around. There's no like Manny Rootnell, who was kind of like trying to run a little bit away from his lefty credentials. This was not that.
No, this was a real kind of dyed in the wool, we need to change leadership. We need to change how we act as Democrats here. And I will be very interested to see how Hakeem Jeffries handles this come whenever the House is going to be in session next. And he can answer some questions about this.
They're in session 2 more weeks through October or something. It's some
tough job, but somebody's got to do it, Chuck.
Working hard,
those who can't do and those who can't teach, run for Congress.
Teach Jim. Can we do a wrap up? Can we keep everybody here and do a wrap up? Or you want to start? You want to start with Nathaniel? Nathaniel, you got.
First of all, let's do a little bit of update. We do have one major race we haven't called.
Skelly, you want to do that's outstanding
Senate race.
So we haven't.
Even though this looks like a big margin, we saw something in the data here. Explain, Jeffrey.
Yeah. So Decision Desk HQ has not yet projected the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate. Obviously, John Hickenlooper is up 14 percentage points. He is likely to win. But really, the reason we have not projected it yet is that Gonzalez did gain a fair bit in the second sort of drop of ballots that were tabulated. And so we're also not exactly sure how many votes are left. We believe it's about 160,000. However, if it turns out that there are a few more, then that could perhaps open the door for Gonzalez because, again, the type of votes that get were dropped off at the last minute tend to be more progressive leaning.
But to make up 90,000 votes here, I mean, she's got to be winning. Yeah,
she have to win 70-30.
She'd have to win she'd have to win a very high percentage. I mean, that's why at the end of the day, Hickenlooper is very likely going to win, but we're just not in a position yet to project it.
I always like to show people how the sausage is made and how the thinking gets done, right? I think some people think it's totally haphazard, and it's not haphazard in the least. No,
that's
a great point. That's the one big one not called.
Our projection team is going over the numbers very closely and figuring out what is left and what would be needed to win. And then you reach a point where it's like, well, that's not happening, and that's when you project the race. Yeah. So otherwise, obviously Phil Weiser won the gubernatorial nomination for the Democrats. Will probably be the next governor of the state in the 8th congressional.
We called the
district.
Republican yet? By the way, did we call the Republican?
No, we have not called. We've not projected the Colorado
margin's
Republican
been about the same
yet,
for a while,
but it's been hovering, and so we'll see how that pans out. In the congressional races, obviously the big story is Malik Kuros beating Diana DeGette. The Democratic primary, super safe Democratic seat. Kuros will be winning that in the fall. In the most important swing seat in Colorado, Manny Rutinel, state representative, has won the Democratic nomination. He'll face sitting Representative Gabe Evans, who narrowly won in 2024 to take over that seat for Republicans. And so that's, and then there are a few other congressional contests, but those are the big stories of the night. In Colorado.
And we mentioned Jeff Hurd got reelected, won the primary against a challenge who's right. There's some, but nothing. Maybe if Tom Hanks is running,
we don't have a projection yet on who will face Hurd. So that's
right. This is a marginally competitive race, meaning
Trump plus 10.
Yeah.
This is a reach seat for Democrats. If they're competing here, they're probably having a good night in November.
If they went, this is what, if for some reason Democrats got into the 20s, it's because they got a seat like this, right?
A couple,
or the Colorado Springs seat, which is even actually, again, as Aaron Covey mentioned earlier tonight, is one of the few seats that trended a little left in 2024 from 2020, and it's super highly educated. Colorado Springs district, Trump won it by like 9. It's kind of similar story as the third, but the demographics might be better for Democrats, especially in the midterm.
All right, so thank you, Skelly. Let's go bottom to top. Chuck and I will go last. Nathaniel, if you are forced to tell us, tomorrow morning they say, what's the big thing that we need to pay attention to? What really mattered from tonight? What do you say?
I think it is that the progressive wing of the party continued to show some muscle. I think that the likely loss to Hickenlooper is no small feat either, right? I think getting 43% against an incumbent is still impressive. And then I think obviously what we were talking about, the 9th or 10th incumbent to lose renomination this cycle, which I think is going to continue to be the main story of these primaries. I think those are the takeaways.
Kirk.
The progressive wave has broken containment from New York. That this is not just a New York City phenomenon. This is somewhere that could happen in these other areas of the country. Last week I was thinking a lot about Ben McAdams, the former Blue Dog member, winning the nomination in the new Salt Lake City Deep Blue seat. Kat Connolly winning in New York 17, more moderate candidate. But I think this shows that the fears that leadership has, the shivers that are going down their spine, are not going to go away anytime soon on the Democratic side. If the first half of primary season was dominated by Trump, the second half of primary season is going to be dominated by this surge of progressive insurgents.
Skelly.
Oh, well, I do think it's interesting, going back to the gubernatorial race. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about the first district Democratic primary, but Phil Weiser winning the gubernatorial primary over a sitting U.S. Senator Michael Bennett, I think is very interesting. We've seen, as I mentioned earlier, record number of sitting U.S. senators running for governor. 4 who say, "Oh, I would like to just go home. I would like to leave D.C." And only one of those, by the way, was not up for election for their Senate seat this time around. This is in 2026. The rest of them were 2028 individuals. So, it's like, I don't want to come home. Well, they don't necessarily want to have you come home. You stay in DC. And,
can't go home again. We all know that.
So anyway, I think it's just another sign of if you've got senator or representative in front of your name, as Chuck has said many times this year, and it's continued. It's tough, and it's tough beyond just on the Republican side. I think right now everybody's mad at their party establishments for different reasons.
Right.
Chuck, you want to go last? You want me to go last?
Look, you started this. I'll go ahead and go and let you have the last word. I think two things can be true at the same time, and I think that what Colorado is sort of reinforcing to me is this anti-Washington vibe. Yes, if you're anti-establishment and anti-Washington, then you're going to be open to somebody on the left or somebody on the right. I want to sort of not presume that everybody that's voted against these Washington politicians are all suddenly, drinking socialist juice or drinking nationalist juice. This really feels more like a throw them out type of mindset. And I think so. I'll tell you what I want to do is sort of ratchet back this assumption that the party's moving left. Mm-hmm. The party is moving against its leadership. For now, the only vehicle is on the left. So I think that's just, I know that sounds a little nuanced, but I think that we're all quickly trying to assume that everybody's just suddenly wanting Medicare for all. And no, I'm not. What they want, it's clear. It's like Democratic voters are behaving the way Republican primary voters have been behaving the last decade, which is, wait a minute, you voted to confirm an Obama cabinet secretary? Screw you, right? Like that is and to see that energy inside, particularly the Colorado Democratic Party tonight, it just tells me that, yes, there is certainly, the vehicle is the progressives, but the real energy is simply just bring in new people. We may throw them out too, but we don't want these guys.
I will echo that. I think it's insurgency and not the same old matters more than ideology right now. That said, I don't know whether it makes a difference, because my ending, which is slightly contradictory to yours, but I don't think ultimately is, I just continue to think, if I'm Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I'm watching what's been unfolding, right? And I would find it hard not to say, well, shit, like this kind of, whether it's ideology or outsider or shake things up, I find it hard to be like, you know what, I'm just going to wait and see how things pan out and pass on 2028 and, run for president in 2032. Like maybe she doesn't, maybe she's not interested. I've talked to people who said, well, she wants to be in the Senate. She wants to be not whatever. And I do think it's more nuanced to your point, Chuck, but I think whatever the reason, if you're looking at that, I'd rather be today AOC than Gavin Newsom. Yeah. I know the polling would suggest that's not the case. I'm projecting forward. Anyway, thank you all. Always a pleasure.
Yes, thanks, everybody.
I just want to do a one every Tuesday just to make sure Nathaniel has a hat for every. There
are no primaries next Tuesday, but let's just all agree to meet anyway.
Well, just make sure get that Diamondback. I think the next time we see you, Nathaniel, will be. I think you've got to get the Snakes hat on.
The Diamondbacks.
It's up
Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's, who knows if we'll do something. Just the South Dakota gubernatorial runoff on July 28th. Do you have a minor league team from there?
I think I
a Fargo team.
Is it like the Rushmores or something like that? Like, is it the?
I'm sure there is a minor league team, but I haven't been there, so I don't have one.
By the way, another state where a sitting member of Congress finishes outside of the running, didn't make the runoff. Dusty Johnson. Anyway, thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you, Kurt. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you. Thank you for watching. Remember, most Tuesdays we do this.
Yeah. We'll see you again.
Bye, y'all. Take care.